Check podcasts.
The Bread and Butter Collective is a collection of hospitality professionals working together to help strengthen our industry to build strong culture, community, and sustainability.
I'm Kalen McNeil.
And I'm Sam Jones. And this is the Bread and Butter Podcast.
Welcome to the Bread and Butter Podcast. How are you, Sam?
I'm good.
It's almost like our preamble before the show starts is like how a comedian warms up the audience.
Except we're just warming each other up.
It's creepy.
And then we got Vivian, the super producer, over
Yeah.
there just starting like halfway through. We haven't even gotten past what we said.
No.
Oh my God. Okay, we're good.
We're good. How are you?
I'm super good. I'm having a great day, actually.
Are you?
Yeah.
You seem got a pep in your step, a little bit of energy.
Yeah, well, we hired an old kitchen manager back.
Oh, sweet.
And we're not making him a manager because that was one of the reasons he didn't want to be there at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
And the first thing he does is like get me off my kitchen duty in the morning and the manager as well. So we both go in almost every morning at 5 a.m.
Yeah,
to start the day, prepare. Yeah. And he's like, no, I got this. You just don't do it.
I don't want to be a manager, but I'm going to manage.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he doesn't have people to manage.
Yeah.
He's just...
Not everybody wants that.
He's got goals. He's got production goals, some creative goals, no people goals.
Yeah.
And
I love that idea. Yeah, because there is some really good people that just don't want the responsibility. And in fact, probably aren't even good at it.
I don't,
Yeah.
and I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, but you have to be because you're
Well,
the
I have
boss.
to pretend.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm actually good at managing people. I don't think I am. I think I can manage people, and I do, but I don't think I'm very good at it, and I know I don't like it.
I think the biggest secret of management is let people do what they do well and give them freedom to do it. Because I think people who think you need to, because I don't think I'm a great manager, but the one thing that I'm really good at is letting people do their job and making sure that they're doing it, but giving them the autonomy to do it.
Well,
so
if you can give them that, they can either exceed and go well beyond your expectations of them because they're just driven people, or you've given them enough flexibility to fail, and then they're gone.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
when the mistakes are evident. So if they're effective, they're just cruising and you're hitting all your numbers and the success is obvious as well. Mm-hmm. If they're bad, that'll be obvious. So if they keep making decisions, if you give them the autonomy and they make the decisions and they're stumbling, and it'll be apparent. And then it's a teachable moment. And if you've got the right person, then you can coach them and they'll modify. And then, you've really shown them that you trust them. So their confidence will build versus, a type of manager who, I'm a good manager, but they're in their business all the time and micromanaging them, and actually really not, because then the person, I know this with my wife, she manages me completely and telling me everything I need to do when I need to do it. And I'm a basket case. I don't know where things are. I'm like, because she's over managing me. She's micromanaging me. It's not effective. I told her this week that I was living in an authoritarian state. The house, the walls.
And did that go over well?
No. And then she says, well, why do you do this? Why do you do that? I go, it's a silent protest.
I'm wearing my pants backwards because it's a silent protest.
She gave me these batteries to go recycle, and I literally put them in my closet. But that was an act of protest because I was like, I didn't like being told what to do. So I literally stuck this container of used batteries in my closet. And then she found it. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I was going to recycle them, but I thought, you know what? You told me to do it, so I'm just going to protest. So it was a silent protest. She didn't like that.
No, I bet not.
Yeah. She probably wouldn't like us talking about it. We've got a guest
good
today.
Thing she doesn't listen. So.
No, she doesn't. Yeah. She doesn't listen to me. Yeah, I don't listen to her. Anyway, I love you, sweetheart. Alistair Howes from Fed Urban Agriculture is joining us again.
You, sweetheart.
Yeah, love you, sweetheart.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome. And I just know, I don't have a beard, but we've got 3 gingers in the house.
Yeah, I know.
I feel the power. Ginger power is alive.
Well, what does that mean to you? Does that mean that, does it make you feel
I
odd
don't
being a
think
ginger?
about it too much
But I used to think about it a lot when I was called the Furious Freckle as a child in middle school.
Furious freckle.
It was creative at a time.
That is really creative.
I liked it. Yeah, at a
that's
time,
some
someone
superhero
tried to
name.
nickname me Staircase because Alistair. You could spell stair.
Oh,
and I thought
yeah.
that was reaching.
Yeah, that's
That's
staircase.
Furious Freckle. You know, there's some emotive there. It's descriptive. It's visual. Yeah, and I don't think about it too much, but I was actually in Ireland for the first time. My family's originally from there, but 5 generations back. And for the first time in my life, I felt the red hair, a little bit of the camaraderie of seeing something. Oh, it's kind of like my face.
And but didn't you feel a little bit at home? I found that when I went to Scotland, there's people that just looked like me, and I was like, "Oh, wow!" I feel, and it was. I mean, it's weird for white guys to be having this conversation, but I guess you know.
But maybe not too. And for what I'd say, because I think like for me, I've never really felt that connected to where my family's lived in Canada. Like we've been in Canada for 5 generations, never the same place in any of those generations, but never one to tell us about what kind of trees are in the environment that we're around, like a real connection to place, what kind of food is in this area, a lot of like understanding about who lived here before us, some conversations like that. And so as a student of history myself, I really felt a connection to be in a place where my family was from, maybe with some English heritage that wasn't so well treated by well treating to the local Irish. But still, I felt the local connection for sure. Yeah, it's a big difference.
But isn't that funny? I mean, we're going on a bit of a tangent here, but when I was in Ireland in the spring, and I have Irish as well as Scottish. So on my grandmother's side, they grew up in Belfast, and they're Catholic. So they do that whole thing. So when I'm there, when I was there, I kind of went into like my wife and by accident just booked us like 2 or 3 blocks from where my family grew up, and it's obviously it's a very historic area, and there's still even actually an increase in violence in that area now, which is crazy. But I went into a deep dive looking at old maps and just Googling stuff like where they were and where their house was, and their house was torn down. But she booked an Airbnb in one of those row houses that there's only like a handful of them left in Belfast. And it was actually, I thought it could have been the same street, but we were like 3 streets over from where my great grandmother grew up and where my grandmother grew up as children.
Wow, it's the same neighborhood.
Yeah, it was really kind of cool. And then just to get into history, like I think history is so important. It really informs the present and the future as well. But just connecting to that, and I found going to Scotland was the same way. Like I just connected with the people there. It looked like me, and you're like, oh, you don't see it. Even I've had a friend who was in Scotland recently, and they took a picture of a doppelganger of me. And I looked, I was just literally like, that could be me. Like,
looks like you, doesn't sound like you.
No, definitely. And doesn't have burgers or do a podcast or whatever. So Alistair, we're here to talk. We want to get a recap, because when we last had you on the show, the Fed Society just took over Topsoil Urban Garden. We had to raise some money to pay for the purchase and do all that. And how has the season gone? Because this is sort of year 2, right? Or summer 2. But the first one was, there's a lot of stuff going on in your transfer and takeover, and now you've actually been running it. So how has it been going?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been going really well, and it's not just me running it.
No, of course. Yeah.
Appreciate the compliment, but no, of course, it's a great team that's making it happen. But to recap, to start with, we've had the farm for about 1.5 years now. We acquired the asset in March of 2024, and so March isn't a great time to acquire a farm, timing-wise. A lot of stuff happens a little early on in the year, but we got to it quickly. We just got a feeling of getting our feet under us in the first year. I say just, but we ran a really effective social enterprise, grew 8,000 pounds of food at that farming location, managed 2 rooftop gardens outside of that project, and our charitable programming, which included on-site farming tours, but also some really fantastic workshops around education and engaging with local community members that maybe don't have the access to get to agriculture. And for us, for the really exciting part for me, get a lot of students down to the farm and maybe tell them, inspire them that farming is a career possibility, and that if we're looking at a change around future of food, we're very much understanding as an organization that that's only going to happen if we have farmers. We're moving towards a more urban society by the day, have since the 30s. That's a reality.
Yeah.
How are we going to get people interested in food in urban settings? And that's something we've really taken on in this second year as a goal as we move forward. So Myself, I spent a little less time on the farm this summer, a lot more time managing now. 3 rooftop gardens, a fun expansion this year to St. Michael's University School, put in a rooftop garden that they paid for through us, and then actually paid for us to harvest all of the produce and donate it to the Songhees Wellness Center all summer. Which has been a really beautiful
amazing.
Wow,
So is that up and running now?
Yeah, that's actually been up since May. So they were in contact with us with the timing as early as December of last year, and they really talked to us about, we've been there since May working with the students in the school year, which has been a lovely opportunity to see the excitement. And then their big goal was that it's not just a demonstration education space, that there's some real production and value to it. And so they gave me keys to the school for the summer, and I've been popping in and getting strange looks from the people painting, going, are you allowed to be here? I am covered in dirt, but I am allowed to be here.
It's like you're covered in paint. I'm just covered in dirt.
Yeah, as the sweepers walk behind me with brooms and they just get you out of the building. So it's been a really great opportunity to see that. And then now year 2 is kind of coming to a close, but looking always ahead to the future, looking at launching more of a robust fee-for-service revenue. So outside of the farm and our charitable programs, but selling exactly like that model. Private rooftop gardens to to businesses, educational institutions, or just large-scale building owners that happen to have a lot of commercial space. And there's a lot of things through things like the Victoria 2030 District, which is a group of commercial buildings in Victoria who have committed to sustainable metrics and emissions reductions by 2030, and then continued metrics to 2040. And so one of the goals we have is to connect with those larger organizations of building owners in Victoria and find out how can we get more plants on your rooftop, more food production on your wasted and empty spaces, and find that middle point of emissions reductions, but also the investment in people, both staff and otherwise, to breathe some more life into our cities full of concrete. And I bet you're feeling the heat that concrete's providing. So maybe mitigating some of that could be good as well.
So when you put a garden on a rooftop, I've got this picture of cranes lifting soil and stuff. What's the process once someone says, I'd love to be part of your program, I've got a roof, can I do it? How does that process go from there?
The first thing that we decide is, where's the food going to go? And what I hadn't farmed before my interaction with Topsoil about 4 or 5 years ago, and Chris Hildreth, who created Topsoil, the mantra he instilled in me that I very much believe is that growing food is easy in comparison to getting it to people. So it's not necessarily easy.
Yeah, it's a distribution component.
Yeah, and finding that distribution system and establishing it early on and establishing multiple. So for St. Michael's University School as an example, 3 destinations for the food on site for students to take home and staff to cook with there for times. The main one donating to the Songhees Wellness Center, but realities of all food systems, the Songhees Wellness Center pickup is only on a particular day. Sometimes the garden needs to be harvested on days that don't align with that. What are your tertiary distribution angles? We have the Our Place Society, which has a phenomenal kitchen that takes food all the time. So a big question is, does your building have a restaurant on site? Is it hoping to move this product to the kitchen?
Yeah.
Is the value something you're trying to get out of that to reduce kitchen costs? Or are you trying to use it to donate food to increase impact? Or maybe are you trying to use it to increase local pollinator health or native plant support? And are you looking to actually have a native plant garden that's more of a space for your staff to come and have a little respite in the middle of a hustle and bustle of the city? So there's a lot of different angles you can go with it. And our thing is modular containers, small growing containers. They're about kind of 15 gallons. It'd sit on, you could probably stack about 8 on this table in front of us.
And they're fabric, right?
Yeah, geotextile fabric.
Okay, so the roots can breathe and stuff.
And water can dissipate out of them easily.
Nice.
But then also we do work with larger systems, like our urban learning garden has very large 8-foot long by 4 feet in height garden beds with water reservoirs, and those are much more placemaking. If you're into that sort of thing, where we've had conversation with some hotels about making, say, a 2nd floor rooftop patio area. Be a little less rooftop production focused, but a little bit more space making. So there's a myriad of priorities, and our goal is to find whatever our client's goal is, align them with it. For example, a good friend of mine, Paul Stewart, at the Kool-Aid Society, we're putting in a rooftop garden for his kitchen just to reduce their herb costs. So that's all paid for through the MyFed Farm program, but that's going to be in an on-site kitchen. They're going to walk out an existing door to a really basic roof with 2 AC units on it and nothing else. And their staff is now going to be able to garden, take herbs, but also have one space in the building where you're not going to interact with the clients that you're working with and have a little bit of a break, which is something they've had.
Yeah, kind of mental health spot for that, because it's challenging in those environments with the clientele they have and the challenges that they go through there.
Well, Paul's a great guy. I like Paul.
Yeah, we've got to have Paul on our show.
Yeah,
he's brilliant.
His kid actually cooks for me right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It's fantastic. Hearing what he talks about in terms of the passion and bringing that passion to the plate for everyone, especially for people that aren't prioritizing, at least in his words, aren't always thinking about the food as their number one priority when you're living
Well, they
in
have
really
other
difficult situations, of course. But the love they can breathe into it, and then also that little bit of support that he needs to really move that project forward is an area where Fed's really looking to try to partner to try to do some policy advocating to say local food is not only healthier, but what Paul's Kitchen is doing and the fact that they've set up a program with Farm Bucks in collaboration so they can have some support for local farmers to buy local food, it's also supporting our local food economy. And so trying to look at orienting food in that way so that some people are spending money on food, say the hospital beside my house has a huge food budget. It's just at a conference earlier this week that was focused around how can we use healthcare institutions' purchasing power in their food system to support local food security. How can we use that to invest in local food security instead of bringing in freezer reheated trays, hospital food, as everyone likes to call it. Yeah. But how can we look at institutions that already, I think it's something like $4 billion that healthcare spends on food in Canada across its entire constituencies. There's big opportunities there, but we can also use that as a tool to invest in other parts of society, which is something I think Paul champions really well.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I think that whole component of, you look at the government impact on things. And I remember going to when we were first, looking at financing the garden and went to the government and they were like, wow, if it was for profit, blah, 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 there's funds for that. And then I was just saying to this lovely woman who cared, but just her hands were tied that, there is no for-profit farming. Like, it's literally a lifestyle. They can cover the bill. Farmers don't traditionally make a ton of money. And I think, back in the day, farming was a way to make a decent living and prideful living. And the government just needed to shift what they're doing. Like, you have all these social programs, you have all these other investments. Like, why wouldn't you mandate government organizations to create a way to support local agriculture, whether it be through urban farming, which I think is a great use, but also we have a lot of farms, but as we talked in the last show, the farm production on the island has gone down a ton, and we had Tresca from the mustard seed on as well, and she was talking about how it's really decreased. So getting that support and encouraging people to farm, but why not? Especially sustainability, because the majority of a lot of our vegetables comes from the States.
Yeah, BC imports 80% of its fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, maybe we're shifting what we're buying, so that we can actually grow it and use it and create some scale. What do you see in the future for Fed Urban? Like you said, 8,000 pounds. Obviously, capacity is an issue. Do you see other farms hopefully growing and increasing that capacity? Could we get to 20,000 pounds? Could we get to 30,000 pounds? That kind of plan?
Yeah.
Or idea?
We definitely could get to those numbers.
Yeah.
I think for us, one thing that I've really enjoyed being in the organization when I worked for Fed when it was a nonprofit, and then now working with Fed as a full charity, and now with a social enterprise, is the ability to rely upon our board to make the directions around what is the most strategic opportunity for us. I think for me, I see we could be farm production in terms of trying to, as an organization, produce as much food under our roof as we possibly could. I don't think that's the most effective direction we could take, because I think what's unique is our exposure and our ability to acquire more people like myself who are in university getting really anxious about these terrible climate things that they hear about, and then also hearing that there are very few people with practical solutions, and then finding out that farming can be a really practical way to change our relationship with the world generally and very practically reduce our emission. I see Fed in the next 2 to 3 years acquiring a second site within the region, just so that we can have the ability to always have a permanent base. I was actually just speaking with, before I came here, the Greater Victoria Harbour Authority, and they have multiple spaces. They're very keen about having us farm for both the exposure of it, but the fact that they move a lot of food through there. I only found out recently the Greater Victoria Harbour Authority is the only port in Canada that only services cruise ships, no container metrics of any kind. It is the 8th busiest port in Canada. It
Wow.
moves an incredible amount of metrics through there, entirely in people.
Yeah.
It's busy. They do a lot of stuff there, and they have a huge interest in sustainability. Actually, last week I was at a site bordering the airport that they aren't allowed to have any vertical development on. The airport owns it. It's 8 times the size of the current farm that we have, and they would be open to us farming that as soon as the legislations on their end allow it, which could be 2027. So there's definitely interest in that increase in production. But I think what we need to do as an organization, and where we are moving right now with our Catalyst program, it's looking at making new young farmers and hopefully giving them the model that we have, the opportunity of what other models are out there, because there is stuff that people are going to figure out that we haven't yet. We don't know all the secrets, and then matching them with the relationships that we're already building in the development world, in the government space. It's really tough because a lot of the people doing this work are young, passionate people, and a lot of people that are making the decisions don't have a lot of connection points to those young, passionate people. And so I think Fed's unique ability is to connect.
Yeah, that is such a... I mean, it's transformative if you can break down those barriers. Like if you look, even the conversation I had with the minister or the assistant minister of whatever department I was talking to, I don't even know what it was. Because as soon as she said no, I was just like, you're dead to me. Right?
Next.
Or think creatively. But just that whole gap is like, well, this is how we've always done it. And this is the process that we've got to follow. I think the time, especially with this, because it's low hanging fruit. You know, there's land, there's space, there's desire, and we're slowly building some people that can actually execute and just get out of the way. And in fact, just think differently. Like, just think about the possibilities, especially when it comes to food security, which is so important on so many different levels, right? So it excites me. Every time you come on the show, I just get really pumped just because you can see the possibility. And you articulate it in a very clear way, which is important, especially because it's a nonprofit, right? So we rely on donations and fundraising, and, it's social enterprise. So there is some income. Talk a little bit about where you get your revenue from. Are you selling? I know some of these answers. I'm just leading.
You're just passing.
Yeah. But so you sell, I know you sell to restaurants.
Yes.
You have a market. Talk a little bit about what's going on there.
Yeah, so I'm very proud of the diversity that I've seen in our revenue streams as an organization. And that started when I was working with Topsoil, and it's just a for-profit business. And we were just launching a CSA program. So CSA being community supported agriculture. It is, and I think something we should really look at, it's an economic model that was designed by small scale farmers within the last 100 years. And the idea is pay a flat rate for all your food in the spring when farmers need to hire their staff, buy their soil costs, order in seed from far away, enjoy the investment that you've made. Hopefully things go well. Maybe you're taking on some risk if it doesn't for the rest of the season. That's all to say that's a revenue stream that injects a ton of cash at a point in the year where you have no cash.
When you need it.
When you really, really need it. Yeah. And that was real low-hanging fruit we hadn't hit before.
In coffee, they call that being a coyote. And it's not a good thing in coffee, because it's where people will go, the coyotes will go, and they'll prepay for the upcoming harvest, and they'll give the farmers the smallest amount possible because they know it's a time of the year where they need the money the most.
Yes.
So they can offer the cheapest price. I'm assuming that's not how you're operating.
No, that's not how we're operating.
Okay.
But there is some alignment in terms of the way that we make sure that we aren't that vulnerable to that buyer's choice, is we don't just rely upon that. So there is still the restaurant sales that are probably the bulk of it. That's going out weekly. The farm as a social enterprise produces roughly 200 to 300 pounds of mixed greens a week. Wow. Just mixed greens that's going to restaurants, and that's all getting loaded onto an e-bike with a trailer this year, which I'm very excited about.
Oh, that's awesome.
And driven to restaurants right around town. Very quick. I think our longest delivery is about 25 minutes. So it's fast. We don't have to rent any cars or pay for any infrastructure to do any of that delivery. But that is a consistent thing, but restaurants are very great, but they don't always pay things as quickly and invoices as quickly as, say, a CSA that we can rely upon it. So
you're basically paid in advance on the CSAs.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. And so now as an organization, we have money that we can really rely on when we're looking at budgeting. We know what our conversion rate is on our CSA year to year. Our new accountant is very happy with the fact that we can budget very, very confidently what amount of cash we can expect to come in from the different revenue streams. And then outside of the farm there is grant writing, there is the corporate engagement and the personal or business world and its support that we really spend a lot of effort trying to cultivate. And then the fee-for-service work that funds the organization through things like consulting projects like building the pollinator garden at the YYJ airport. If you're ever driving into security and you see a pollinator garden on the right, that was done by us. The rooftop garden that went to St. Michael's University School this year. and anything else where we're providing those materials for a cost. So we always have the services, and we always want to make sure that we're not just a charity in the sense that we are understanding that there's value in increasing revenue and having that ability to, but balancing that. So I think at the moment, the last time that we looked at it, we were looking at about 60% of our income coming from grants, which for a full charity under the CRA is approaching the, hey, you guys are making a lot of money realm, which is not a bad spot to be in. Not that we're still very modest and do everything right, but we're very different than other charities because we bring in dramatically more revenue. And I believe it's the reason that we're able to get really good relationships with the business world specifically, because they see the efforts in grant writing, they see the efforts in the fee for service, and they believe that the money they're going to give is actually going to be impactful in programming, not just keeping an organization afloat. Not that there's anything wrong with the continuous things, but I think we're able to make a case that there's a big impact that can happen when people donate money. And that was one of the reasons we were very excited about being able to acquire a lot of money to pay off of the farm and be able to, while we had all the math to say that we could have paid it off, I think some of the sell was the fact that we can do a lot more sooner if we can get some of these things done. And I think we have a very business charity merged mindset, and I think it's very helpful in the farming context. And it makes me inspired about some opportunity for the future.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you have it really grounded.
And I can ramble on a bit as well.
Yeah, well, I mean,
so
messaging is so important, and I think I agree with you. Like, the model works, and this was again what I was trying to explain at the outset. And I think part of it is that we're now beginning to, and I speak we because I'm actually on the board of Fed, but we as a organization have figured out something that is transferable. I think other organizations can look at this type of model, and especially when it comes to farming, because that is like, people have been, I mean, obviously people have been farming for forever, but not successfully of late because of all of the bad stuff that happens in the farming, where yields are pumped with, chemicals, and it's all about production and mass production and efficiencies and distribution. And we basically have foregone a very important part of our sovereignty, which is food and feeding ourselves, because, especially in light of what's happening in the changing political environment, it's critical that we do this. So I think this model is fantastic. I know that there's an event coming up that we're all excited about, and can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this year, Fed is launching for the first time a dinner private event at the farm. So transforming it from a farm into an event space. Done a couple little things in the past in terms of like cocktail events, welcoming people down.
It's a beautiful space.
It is. Yeah.
Where is this space?
So it's
just for people who don't know.
Fed Urban Farms, located at 395 Harbor Road. It's on the border of the Galloping Goose Bike Path, just south of the Bay Street Bridge, nestled in between the Bosa showroom if you're driving by. So it's very easy to see along the Galloping Goose Bike Path, or if you're looking south from the Bay Street Bridge. And it is a former industrial land site that now has 3,000 containers that are growing 8,000 pounds of food a year, with a shipping container that's turned into a processing facility with with a built-in walk-in fridge. So it's going to be, I think, the perfect location for an event that's going to be catered by South Fire Catering. Is that name correct?
Yeah,
okay.
Which is going to be doing open fire Argentinian style cooking, which is going to be very beautiful, with food stations across the entire event, and an opportunity for us to both tell people about what's happened across this 1.5-year journey of Fed, but with us always looking forward into what we're doing, being very excited about launching a much bigger fee-for-service project in terms of a subscription urban agriculture offering, so that people can trial what it would be like to transform their rooftops without all of the commitment and risk that we've chatted with some people about, as well as just letting some people know about some of our other programming and opportunities to connect. So it'll be a fantastic fundraising event. It's on the 14th of September, starting at 4 p.m. And I believe that we should be posting our public tickets as soon as the first business day of September, I believe. But at the moment, I believe we're still on the private first come for the things, but we are looking to open it up eventually, and it should be a really fantastic opportunity for us, our whole network, but hopefully for our network to connect with one another as well.
Wow, that's great.
Well, it's a great opportunity for people to come down, enjoy obviously amazing food from South Fire, but just to be in that environment and see hear some of the stories.
Yeah.
Like, I think, Alistair is such a great storyteller when it comes to the mission that we're on and tying in all the components, right? Because I think it's hard for people to understand the benefit of what's happening there. And for me, as a part of our business model, we've switched our focus to food security and food sustainability as a restaurant business. That's something that I care about. I think our customers care about as well. So supporting Fed and Fed urban agriculture is amazing opportunity, and it makes us more resilient on the island, and it's a great conversation piece. The one thing that I really love about we talk about pollinator gardens, because we had Andrew Moyer on talking about bees and just how the whole bee cycle works and pollination and all that stuff. And it was fascinating. So even if it's not about food production, the pollinator aspect, because we have a pollinator garden as well at Cook Street. So that's fantastic. What for you? What do you hope to see Fed Urban be a year from now or 2 years from now? What does that realistic plan look like in your mind?
I think in 2 years, a second site in the region is definite possibility. I think on top of that second site, the ability, I think I wrote it into some of my business plans, at least 10 of our subscription gardens over the next 10 years. So looking to add 5 gardens that we manage entirely for production or for whatever their goals are. And the real catch there, or the real capacity building, will be around the human capacity building. So we were chatting a little bit about managing people earlier on in the conversation today, but that'd be looking like taking on, I think it's about hiring a full-time person per 5 gardens. So outside of the farm team, growing the programs and things that happen outside of the farm, from myself and a little part-time support at the moment to a team of 3 to 4 that could ideally then allow me to free up some time to be more in the policy making space, or at least in the consulting and building of gardens for other people. So, for example, we have had interest in the past from the Tofino Chefs Guild about creating a garden within the region there, as a place that doesn't have one of the lowest food production to restaurant outputs, I believe, in Canada, maybe the world. An incredibly small amount of production in the region for how much food gets shipped into there. Wow. When highways get closed, when things go, those chefs really understand what it means to be food insecure. And so I really see a need for Fed to be able to share its model in not a franchising, but a true sharing way, to see what other organizations can do. I think I'd love to be a part of that. But this week I was just at the Victoria Forum, put on by the Senate of Canada and the University of Victoria, and there was a huge interest in food. And so I think as well, with this upcoming government over the next couple of years, there's a real opportunity, I think, for Fed to influence both the BC government and the Canadian federal government, and to try to create more connections. It kills me to this day to know how much money Loblaws spends lobbying the government, and Loblaws has come to the government of Canada and said, as a matter of fact, that every piece of profit that it receives is invested back into making food for you as cheap as possible. Loblaws is a lot more Ontario, so we don't know the specifics around here. But as a matter of fact, over the last 4 years, they have gone on one of the biggest corporate share buyback programs in Canadian history. $2 billion committed this year to increase shareholder value for people investing in Loblaws. So it's a way for me to remember.
They're so evil. That
You know what? Like
every bit of profit they say they.
Yeah, they went in front of the government and on record said that they are investing it back into Canadians to make it cheaper, which just is objectively not true. But it is remind me that the food system is working. This is how it's designed. It is, I think about the quote, if you were going to be the richest person in a gold rush, you should be selling pickaxes. The people that are at John Deere and the people that have huge conglomerates that are buying up small family farms, they're very happy with how the model is working. Grocery stores have a really cheap amount of food that they can get in, and they deal with a very small amount of distributors, which means you get to lobby much more effectively. You get to sign much more long-term contracts when there isn't as much competition in the market. But our food system is set up in a particular way. And I think in Canada, it's important to know, if you're an extractivist colony that has a bunch of agricultural land that's been designed to always, I was just in Thunder Bay, move that grain east. Like we were always made as our food industry is much more of an economic department than it is a health department. There's actually no mandate in any of Canada's food-related industries. Health is not in any of their mandates. Innovation is. Technology, leading global markets is a big goal. I think for us, it's just a reality that we move a lot of canola and grain in this thing, and that's a great thing. We did
move a lot of canola.
Yeah, we did. But, is moving canola to an outside market where it gets processed and then maybe comes back to Canada, should we think of that in the food system? Or maybe should that be in an economic department? And maybe the food that we should be eating should maybe siloed away. Because the small-scale production, the small-scale family farms we think of, far more of an investment in food security. If you think of making a region resilient, BC has the most growing number of farmers. The demographic is individual female-owned farms in BC of, I think it's less than 5 acres. It's the fastest growing metric of farmers in BC. It's one of the few places in Canada where there's some really great stats around it. And just realizing that there is that opportunity, but we just need to be very aware of how things have happened. The conference, the way I'm on it, the whole theme was around 55-minute problem. If Einstein had a quote where if he had to solve a problem in an hour, he'd spend 55 minutes looking at the problem, 5 minutes looking at the solution. And I think that's a really important thing when we look at a very interwoven food system where health and provincial health and federal health has strange overlaps. Food, I think, has some of the strangest overlaps between federal, municipal, provincial, private industry. It's messy. It'll take a little bit of untangling, but there are some huge win-win opportunities in food. And I think it's just about orienting food away from a perceived sense of abundance in a grocery store towards what if food could reduce health outcomes at hospitals. So increase health outcomes at hospitals, which is a huge talking point. Nothing around sustainability, just we don't want people to stay here as longer. Let's not have them be malnourished when everyone jokes about hospital food. Or is it at the same time creating local jobs from universities and environmental departments that see that value? Is it also then reducing the amount of pollutions and things like Elk Lake near us that are starting to have a lot of agricultural runoff impacts? Realities that we do need to start looking at. Food is everywhere. And so for me, it's just about pointing it in the right direction, I think is where my mind is.
Resonates with me the comment about President's Choice or whatever group.
Loblaws in this
Loblaws, President's Choice is a brand of Loblaws, effectively. But the fact there's a disconnect between the health is it's interesting because my GM moved to France 2 years ago and he had blood work done when he first got there and he had blood work done 2 years later. And it means there's cheap wine, he's drinking, he's doing this thing, and he's thinking, my liver, I wonder what my liver enzymes and all that kind of stuff looks like. Huge improvements. And he's like, oh. And the doctor basically said, I don't know what the improvement gain was, but it was 20% better or something from what his first 2 year ago blood work was done. And the doctor said it's to do with the food.
Just the quality
of the food, because it's real food.
Yeah, and the locality of it.
The locality, especially with the grains and the bread, like that. And then you look at the meats and all of that stuff where you don't have the antibiotics, you don't have all this stuff. There's just different grain too. We have a huge celiac issue in North America. There's things that we have that are unique to us. Whereas they eat so much bread in France, there's tons of bread,
dairy as well,
and dairy,
a lot less lactose,
and there's way less lactose.
Spraying all their wheat
exactly,
either, right?
Well, it's not only the spraying; it's the spraying, but it's what they do to clean the spray off.
Yeah,
right. So there's that, and it doesn't always get it, and there's also the chemicals they're using to remove the chemicals that they put on. And you're digesting it, and the rates of cancer,
and the rest of the earth is digesting it too. And it's something that France is a really interesting context because I think about the history and looking at it from a historical lens. There are very few places in the world where farmers have as much rights on the water in their area as France. In terms of looking at the French wine district, you are not allowed to water your grapes. You're only allowed to have the terroir, the taste of the earth. But for that reason,
you can't water the grapes.
You cannot water the grapes in France. They will have no irrigation. It has to all come from underground aquifers. And so it has resulted in this protection of the local water system that you would not believe. Putting in a factory 30 miles away is not the wine producers who make up a sizable part of the economy, who have historical value, who have prestige in our society, who have been making decisions, who have effectively been, it seems an odd context, stewarding the land for a very long time because you've had generations of people.
Way.
Yeah, and it seems a very interesting context of a lot of parallels that we should be looking at in terms of the stewarding of the land that Indigenous people have done in Canada as a phenomenal example. People that have had the ability to, for a long time, control the impact of an environment and decide what is good or bad for that environment. And I bet if a farmer came by and said they wanted to spray their wheat to increase it by 10%, the federal government of Canada might go, ooh, increase of 15%. That looks great on the economy of export on the table. Yeah. And the French wine producers go, absolutely not. I want to see very distinct environmental assessments. I want to show you where your water is coming from, why you're not going to have discharge, where you're planning on going for it, what your plans are if you do to contaminate. It's an interesting context, the French one, because it makes me think a distinction of regions defined by watersheds, not lines drawn on maps, things that are much more land-based than something else, although it's not perfect, but I think there's definitely something we could learn. And I do like the way the French farmers protest.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my, it's so awesome. I
think there's a connection there, though.
Oh, there 100% is. And they're like, if they're for it, we're against it. You know what I mean? And they protest like on regular.
Yeah.
Like even if they're like, oh, okay, we're kind of happy. Well, we're going to protest.
Yeah.
And they do blockades and, everybody just knows it happens and they just go about their business.
Yeah.
But they're keeping an eye on the powers, right? So, and
they're keeping people fed. Like, I'd love to support a protest for my local firefighters.
Yeah.
Say what you will. I know that there would be less of a support for a local police department protest. It's about, like, how does the public see it? In France, from my chatting with a couple of local things, when the farmers protest, they're protesting for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you
know, on your behalf, right?
Yeah, they're looking out for you and you make that connection.
It's not all getting exported away. They're not looking for 5-10 extra% of the entire market getting put on a ship and driven across the world and then maybe subject to canola tariffs. It's going to the people next door. I think that's a big connection of why it's seen as value, not an economic producer that's, we could just, let's just use the oil sands and we'll buy the food from somewhere else.
Yeah. There's like, we'll create money over here bad and then we'll spend it over here. Good. No, like, the ecosystems are so important and the stewardship piece is incredible. And I guess that's where, you look at, all this language of, and it's prominent in the media, I guess, as far as in our face with what's going on in the States. And they're on this health push, right? But then they're wanting Europe to buy their goods. And Europe's like, we ain't buying it because we don't want it. We ain't buying it because it's not healthy. Yeah. It's not good for us.
What happened to the free market?
Invisible hand. Create a healthy product and we'll be more than happy to buy it. Right. And that's where, you look at the laws, you look at these companies that are lobbying governments to prevent this crap. And it's time, like they're hoarding all the money. The fact that they can buy $2 billion worth of stock buybacks, that's money that should be going to workers. This money should be going to research on how to steward the environment that they're using, also to create healthier food options, all of that. Like it should be, stock buyback should be banned. Like they should not be allowed to buy, or restricted to a certain percentage of profit.
That was the perspective that the economist from the U.S. had that was opening the panel yesterday for the Victoria Forum on Monday, was that stock buybacks are a perfect example of, especially just in the context of Apple and a couple of the tech companies. Even if you just want the company to do well, all that money should be going in the innovation department.
Yeah, 100%.
Right back in innovation.
100%.
Back to the CEOs.
Yes, absolutely. And even still, even if it went back to a CEO who had something of innovation, if there's something to add, maybe. But no, it is entirely going to the ether, as much as that is valuable.
Well, and it's just propping up people that are hoarding money, and then we have a tax system that basically punishes the poor and lets all the rich people off the hook so they can hoard more money. Like a rich person does not spend. They just don't. They don't need to spend.
Yeah, the dragon never had a need for the gold coin. But
it
slept on top of it.
Exactly.
And they're holding on to the food too, and they're wasting so much. Grocery stores, you gotta be particular when you go in the grocery store. Pick and choose.
And I think Victoria's got a good example of some alternatives. Like localizing will take effort, but we have one of the only grocery stores in Canada that has entirely non-American offerings at the Urban Grocer. It's been won awards, Canada, and they've put an incredible amount of effort.
Yeah, we're going to be bringing somebody from the Urban Grocer.
Oh, brilliant.
On too.
Yeah. One thing I'd love to hear, and I'm going to listen to that one, is does it take more time? Because there is a trade-off. And talking about the food system is working, and it was something interesting when I was talking to some of the healthcare people. One thing they had to trade off, so they're looking at having a really small example was in Haida Gwaii, there was a knowledge keeper that came to open up, and they were talking about in the 60s, there was no problem, salmon coming straight from the dock on ice into the hospital, feeds the entire hospital. They were like, it wasn't even considered a problem. They had fantastic health clubs compared to other places, but no one was really paying much mind at all. A lot of health regulations came in the 80s and 90s and banned that from happening. And they've only just allowed to have fish back into the 12-bed hospital on Haida Gwaii, I believe, in the last 10 years. So phenomenal work that's gone through some of the dietitians up there to do that. But that just seemed like such a good example of this conversation was about, what's the next revolution in food? How are we going to make things more plant-based to reduce environmental impacts, which is good, but there's many caveats there. And my big point was we need to make sure we're not going backwards, because that was a good example of going backwards. People had to spend decades to try to get the people who have always been fishing and hunting sustainably in an environment back to the people who have always been taking care of their own community. For everyone, it seems a crazy thing. It's silliness, but it is a great example of we're a big country, and when regulations get slapped across the entire country, we
over-regulated.
Yeah,
and
we have
regional
so many unique
nuances.
food systems.
Yeah,
and we need to be very sensitive to that within a small island, within a small community, within an island, within a city of Victoria, and what things are culturally relevant, but also what things are familiar. Imagine how much healthier we'd all be if we were excited about eating the food in hospitals, as a little example. And if someone came in and told you about it, and there was a garnishing, not pushing it off a tray and looking dreary and upset when it happens. But
under a plastic dome.
Yes, it might not.
I hear the hospitals in Japan serve wonderful food, like really healthy stuff, like no junk.
Yes, and there's some innovative stuff happening in Ontario, which is really interesting around the Mohawk Buy Collective. What they're doing is they're collectivizing a bunch of hospitals so they can still get the price reductions, but offering them a lot more local. And the big innovative thing was that food has been with parking at hospital institutions. It's under the same administration as parking. It's not in clinical services. It's not seen as a way to make people healthy. And so there's also just it's a quick change. There's a lot of things that happen with that. But there are some ways hospitals had chefs in the 60s and 70s.
How could they get it so wrong? The parking at hospitals is so great, but the food's so bad. Oh, wait, no, they're both awful.
Well, it's because of the point you brought about the economics of it. Like food shouldn't be economics.
Yeah.
It should be primarily health. And then you figure out how it's sustainable from an economic standpoint. People doing it need to make money. But again, it also goes back to choices. And it really, everything goes back to taxation.
Yes.
You know?
And then where those are spent in the subsidies. Because your point, our government's already subsidizing the food industry. So they're already saying some economic things are okay to eat for the sake of public good. I think it's just changing what that public good is, which is maybe not laws making more money on this.
But share buybacks.
Anyone.
Like it's so strikingly obvious when you break it down. But then again, you talk about that gap between what we should do and what we are allowed to do and the regulations and that old fuddy-duddy person up top saying, well, this is the way we've always done it. This is the way I've been. And they have sure, they're getting a paycheck, but they have no vested interest in outcomes. They don't, because the bureaucracy that's built in is built in there for a reason. It's to protect the bureaucracy.
Yes.
And the revolution needs to happen. And I don't think it needs to happen in a way that we're like lighting fires, but the fire has to spark and it has to start somewhere where you're literally convincing these, I don't want to call them morons, but very short-sighted
people. I'd say status quo people.
Status quo,
super value neutral.
In order to kind of just see what the heck is going on here. Man.
Well, maybe you and me have a trip to Ottawa.
Yes, I think so, 100%.
Someone's got to be in the same room as the people from Loblaws and saying, you know what? There is another option. Yeah,
this is another option. And let's go, because there's so many benefits. And the health benefit is one, the economic benefit, sustainability benefit. Like, there's so many benefits.
Yeah, and then talking about investing in reducing impacts of climate, pandemics in the future, all those sorts of things. How much healthier could we be as a society if we had 25% more local farms than we did during the pandemic? I bet more than 25% healthier, I suppose, would be my argument when you look at that whole benefit.
Plus,
it's probably a one-to-one, you're thinking?
Yeah.
And guess what? It pays for itself. Because everybody says, whenever you try to do stuff, whether it be healthcare outcomes or agriculture or any of this stuff, how are we going to pay for it? Guess what? It pays for itself. These are investments that are 50x return over time. Like, they don't show up on this year's balance sheet or this year's profit and loss statement. They show up 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Right? And that comes from universal health care, universal education, universal dental care, really, truly getting healthy food into people and supporting agriculture. Like 20 years from now, we will be world leaders in so many outcomes.
Absolutely.
And the kids will be smarter, and school lunch programs too, same thing, right? Yeah. Like, it pays for itself. So anytime anybody says, oh, are we going to pay for it? Read a book.
Yep.
It pays for itself.
Right? How can we pay for the future if we don't do it?
I think that's the question they should be asking.
Right?
Oh my God, Sam. Dude.
I just turned your words in reverse.
Yeah, I know, but this is magic. Alistair, thank you so much for this. We're going to be, hopefully we'll get some sales for the fundraiser event that we're putting on
September 15th, is it?
September 14th.
Yep, on a
14th,
Sunday.
sorry.
Yeah, but
Okay.
that would be
14th.
fantastic. But also, I really appreciate, and our organization really appreciated the amount of people on the street that have actually talked to me about this podcast from the last time I was on. But yeah, I really appreciate the exposure, and it's really it is really getting out there. And I've had many people come up to me and ask me about it. So thank you both so much.
Not
for the
just our
opportunity.
mothers, man.
Yeah.
My mother
It's
too,
your
but definitely
mother
other,
too,
definitely other people as well.
Well, we're gonna put we're gonna start attaching some material to our video portion of it, so people can see where they can go learn more about Fed Urban Agriculture, what you're doing. If anybody's interested in it, we'll have the contact information there. Getfed.ca is our website. Right?
Absolutely.
I'm sure you can donate.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a donate link.
Yeah.
There's a matching donation campaign that will end on the final day of that campaign that's open right now called Feeding Families. And all that money is going to local people at risk of food security through the Victoria West Community Center and a few others. And they're able to access our CSA box and come down like one of everyone else that would pay for it and acquire it for a set number of weeks based upon that fundraising goal. So it's a great campaign if there's some interest from people. But yeah, absolutely. There's lots I think that we can do, but I really appreciate the opportunity to come and tell you all a little bit about what we're doing. And if anyone's interested, Rooftop Gardens, if they got a space they want to transform, they should definitely reach us a line, www.get-fed.ca, and there's a contact form with lots of information if you really want to reach out. I'd love to chat.
I love it.
Well, everyone should want to chat with you. You have so much great things to say.
Thank you very
So
much.
articulate and puts us to shame.
It does.
It does.
We're shameful. But we won't be doing stock buybacks. We know that.
I'd buy
Hell
your
yeah.
stock back. I don't even know what that means,
I don't even know what that means either.
honestly.
Sell stock? I don't know. Awesome. Thanks, Alistair. Appreciate you. Sam, as always, be real nice.
Be real kind. Be kind.
And eat good food.
real
Wait,
nice.
wait.
Eat
No,
good
no.
food.
Reverse.
Okay.
Reverse.
Remember to be real nice. If you'll be real kind, that's what you're supposed to say.
Yeah. No. If you're
real,
you say be
Jesus.
kind. And
Dude,
then
I got a ferry to catch, man.
I know. I'm making you get there. Late. Be real nice, everybody.
If you be real kind.
I will.
There, we nailed it.
Wow.
Thanks, guys.
Alistair, thanks a lot.
Appreciate you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Bread and Butter Collective's membership includes the following local businesses: 2% Jazz, Bunny's Kitchen, Buzz Coffee House, Eagle-Ite, Big Wheel Burger, Blue Mountain Solutions, Bodega Tapas Wine Bar, Eva Schnitzel House, Farmsgate Foods and Catering, Victoria Chocolate and Company, Drum Roaster Coffee, Habit Coffee, Foo Asian Street Food, the Culinary Arts Program at Camosun, Cafe Fantastico, Fall Epi, Harold Street Brewworks, Hey Happy, House of Botang, Nikkei Ramen Ya, Jenny Marie's Cracker Company, La Pasta, La Rue Patisserie, Mocha House, Part and Parcel, Poco a Pinto Bar, Pizzeria Prima Strada, Keating Pizza, Roast, Table 9 Consulting, Sherwood Cafe and Bar, Sweets by Selena, The Collective Wine Bar and Kitchen, The Drake, Tapa Bar, The Nimble Bar Company, Ruth and Dean, The Whole Beast, The Wienery, Spoon's Diner, Truffles-Inspired Catering, and Zambries.
To hear more from the Bread and Butter Collective, go to checknews.ca/podcasts on Check Plus, or find us on your favorite podcasting platform.